Okay, y'all. So I actually just think today you're just going to listen to two girlfriends catch up because had I hit record about 15 minutes ago, you would have got a little bit more. But Emma and I are just reconnecting after being in a mastermind together and really haven't caught up since that mastermind like 4 or 5 years ago. And I have been following Emma for such a long period of time. I told her when we scheduled this podcast, I said, I think I just have to Venmo you because I use I use your recipes every single week at least, and there's 2 or 3 that are my absolute go-to staples. So, Macros with M, the famous Macros with M is joining us
Oh
today.
gosh.
Thank you for doing this.
I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, it's nice to catch up. It's so funny, just how you get connected with people and you you understand they have a busy life too, because they're just like you, we're one and the same. And then it's like you can just jump on a Zoom or something a few years later and it's like you never missed a beat. So I love that.
Yeah, me too. And I love getting to catch up. And like I said, I've just loved watching you thrive over the last few years when I was looking at your quick bio. And for those of you who don't know, Macros with M, go check her out. Hundreds of thousands of followers that help thousands of people. But for you, it was really cool to see that when we first got together, I mean, you were in the beginning stages of your business. And now, just, 3, 5 years later, you've created a 7-figure online the health and nutrition company. And very few people can say that they have done that very successfully. And I am, I don't, I've got a lot of issues in my life, but jealousy isn't one. So I am just huge fan of people fucking crushing it, good people. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is so funny that you said that because I remember the mastermind that we were in. I remember making the decision to invest in that, and it was the first thing I'd ever invested in. And I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000. Which I say that now, I'm like, oh, it was nothing. At the time, that was everything. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, like, what am I gonna have to,
Sell
go
an
next in
organ.
line on my house to be able to afford it. Like I was so freaked out to do that. It's just so funny, but it was such a pivotal thing for me to invest in myself then. I didn't know that at the time, but I just remember thinking at the time, like, holy shit, this is the most amount of money I've spent on anything that wasn't like buying a car. And even then, you know what I mean? It's just crazy how different things are now. So yes, I was in the very, very beginning stages of my business when we met.
Well, tell everyone, like, what does that business look like today and when you first started? Because today I really want to kind of go through, like, obviously we can talk about nutrition, we can talk about the health
Oh
side of
yeah.
things because that's really where you're at. But I love the decisions that you've had to make to create a very, very, very successful 7-figure business in such a short amount of time. I'm a big proponent of playing the long game. I'm a big proponent of like things take time. But there is also people like yourself who have gone from I started 5 years ago to now I own a multi 7-figure or 7-figure business. And so when you first started out, when we first met, I guess that was about 5 or so years
Yeah.
ago. When we first met, like what was your thought process? Where were you at in life? I'd love to kind of take people through the journey.
Yeah. So when I started my business, I was actually managing a bank and I had a decent salary. We had a comfortable life. I was married at the time. I was always the breadwinner. So it wasn't one of those where I could literally just leave my job and be like, got somebody to take care of me. If shit hits the fan, like, we have this extra money over here. Like I had to work. My income was very important. So when I started my business, I didn't even really mean to start a business. It was honestly it evolved from competing, and I competed in a bikini competition with some friends, and I didn't even really want to do it. It was more everybody else was doing it, and I kind of got talked into it. But once I got through the process of it, I loved the actual like discipline that you had to have, and just I don't know. I was always a competitor in high school and I played basketball, ran track, all the things. So like goals and things like that, I love. And it's not so much like the getting to the end where you're like, oh, this is it, this is the end. It's more like the things that you have to do to get there. And I love that. And like just crushing this goal and like keep going, keep going. So with the competition and things, like when I saw how my body was changing and competed, followed a bro meal plan. And then
For
after
us
the
non-nutrition people, is that like a boy meal plan?
yes, so it was like everything was chicken or tilapia, asparagus, rice, dry oatmeal. It was very bland. I didn't know what macros were. Like all my food sucked. It was like you ate because you had to eat and you were hungry. We all followed this meal plan, all of us, like various sizes and weight and everything. It was wild. And there was even a guy that did it with us and he followed the same thing. I'm like, after I learned more, I was like, there's no way we should have all been eating the same amount of calories. So after that first little bit, I was like, if I do this again, I feel like I should hire a coach and just like help me with this, because I feel like this is something I can enjoy. So I hired a coach. I learned about macros. I started posting like recipes and things that I was eating. And when people were like, you're eating that, but you look like this, like, can you teach me? I was so in love with teaching people something that I felt like had transformed my life, my body. I was doing it for free. I'm like, I'll teach everybody. And so I was just posting. My Instagram was private at the time. I probably didn't even have 1,000 followers. Started posting recipes and just sharing things. And then I had another coach that had she was part of an MLM and she ran this little 21-day challenge thing. She's like, will you help me like with it? Yeah, I think you would love it. And I'm like, I didn't even care if I got paid. I just loved helping. I just was so excited about doing this thing. So that's initially how it started. And then I got to the point where I was like, I think I can charge people to do this. So I think in the beginning, I was maybe charging like $50 for one-on-one coaching for a month. No idea what I was doing.
I love it. No, I want to stop here just for 2 seconds because I do think it's helpful for people to, really hear this, because obviously now you look at the final result of where Em is at and her following and the amount of people she helps and the amount of money she makes. But a couple of things really stood out to me that this is obviously one of the reasons why I really resonate with you and I really like you is, number one, she started doing something because she was so in love with it. It's the same thing of what I do. Like, I did this for free for so many years because I was just so obsessed with it. I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. The second thing was she really fell in love. And that's the reason why she looks the way that she does and the business is the way that it is because she is in love with the process. It's not that when I achieve this, I will be happy, or when I achieve this, this is my success. She fell in love with the process. So I really wanted you to hear those two things. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So once I just started like I said, I was charging next to nothing, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was working with probably 80 something people one-on-one, and I was
What? Oh my
a full-time
God.
job. And so I literally got to the point where, and I was charging hardly anything, and I had a wait list. So it was like, I think I had 85 one-on-one clients at the time, and I think I was charging $50 or $60. I know it was not even, it was literally, it might've been $60. So I was doing that, and I was having to do all that work on the weekend because I worked a Monday through Friday job. I would work on my lunch breaks. I would work on the weekend, and I moved my training to where I would get up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym and everything before, because I had a son. So then I would have my evenings with my family. And then when he would go to bed, I'd be up till like midnight working on this, and then the weekends. So it got to a point where I was literally burning the candle at both ends. I was probably only making around $40,000 a year in my side gig, which at the time I was like, this is great extra money. But I felt like there was potential to do more, but I also had no clue what I was doing. I don't even think I know I didn't have any kind of LLC, like business entity started. I love to tell people this, because when people are like, but I need to start, like, form a business, I need to do that. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have a business entity. I didn't have anything. When I say I literally just started, I mean, I just started taking people and I figured the other things out as I went.
Unless you're watching this on YouTube, you can't see I am literally clapping right now because I think that is so damn good, because everyone thinks that they have to start with like the
I didn't have a
fucking
website.
website and the
Yes.
LLC. Like,
None of it.
no, no, no,
None of
no.
it. It was one of those, I just was like, the momentum's there, just go. And so I did. And the more I got into doing that and loving it, the more I started resenting and hating the job that I had. I was always very good at my corporate job. I was very well thought of. I got promoted very quickly. Um, all of the accolades, all of the things. And it was still like I just got to a point where on Sundays, I would go to bed crying because I didn't want to have to wake up and go to work on Monday. So I sat down with my husband at the time and we talked, and I'm like, what do you think I would need to make? Like, let's figure out the bare minimum that I would need to make if I left the bank in this business to do it full time. So not to have a lavish lifestyle, literally just to be able to pay our bills and like survive. I wasn't trying to make millions of dollars. I just wanted to be able to go to my son's things at his school, not have to miss so much there, and then just make enough to live. And so when we figured it out, we were like, if you could make around 40 or 50 a year, we could live and pay the mortgage, pay the car payments, that kind of stuff. So I took a job working for another bank, and it was going to be a like stay at home thing, and it was a customer service representative. I was completely overqualified for, and I think it paid $14 or $15 an hour, maybe not even that, but I thought I'll get to work from home, I'll have a little bit of cushion from that, it'll give me more time to work on the fitness stuff. And so I end up taking this job working from home. I knew the bank that I was at would let me go with, or like I would give a notice, but they wouldn't keep me for the 2 weeks because I was going to a competitor. I didn't tell them the job I was taking at the competitor. I was kind of sneaky about it, but whatever. So left there, went working from home for this bank, answering the phone. And I will be honest, it was like calls where you tell people why they're overdrawn or explain like fees and things. Again, I was very overqualified. It was very easy. I didn't have to, but the phone never stopped ringing. I didn't have time to do anything. It was like, I thought I was going to have all this free time. I didn't. And so I remember it was like 3 or 4 days into it. And I went downstairs to make lunch one day. And while I was eating lunch, and I was just thinking, I was like, this just isn't going to work. I don't think I'm going to go back. So I never clocked back in. I never went back upstairs to work. And my husband came home. And when he came home that day, I walked outside when he was walking in and I said, I think I quit my job today. And he was like, oh, okay. He never said anything. He was completely supportive. He knew that I would figure it out because I grew up very poor. I've just always had to figure things out. So from that moment, that was my sink or swim. And I couldn't afford to not figure it out. So I just, yeah, from there, I went ahead and got the bank account, and like things with a janky website, like I created that, but everything was the like very bare minimum. But that was also the first month that I had my first $10,000 month, which was like monumental for me because that was like proof that I could do it. And so from there, I invested in coaching so that I could figure out the things like creating the business entity, creating a website, like hiring a CPA, shit that I had no clue how to do. That just honestly, if I would have thought about all of those things before I started the business, I would have never started my business because it seems daunting and overwhelming and just like too many things. So then,
No, I think
yeah,
that that's so good. And again, I want people to hear this because, I've been asked that question too. Like even the person who does my nails, I think I've told this story before, but the guy who does my nails has been doing my nails for like 15 years. And he's like, how do you do all the things that you do? And I was like, dude, if I would have known what you have to do today, there is zero chance in hell I would have ever started. Last night we were at a YPO event for my husband's company, and some guy asked me, he's like, what's the number one problem that you see in your business? And I said, it's a combination of two things. Number one, people are very afraid to fail. And number two, they think way too far down the line. They're thinking step 3, 10, 20, instead of thinking about step 1, then step 2. And had Emma been thinking about step 3, step 4, step 5, she could still be at that bank today.
I definitely would. And even with my supplement company that I started, Um, there were so many things that I never dreamed would happen. So much money that I set on fire, like bad investments and things that you learn as you go. And had I known, I'm so thankful that I have it now. And it's one of those, it's great because it's an actual sellable company. My fitness and nutrition business is the bulk of my revenue, but at the end of the day, it requires me to run it. I'm the face of it, but I also do a lot of the things in it. And so it's one of those, like, it's not really a sellable company. So that's why I was encouraged by a business coach to, let's create a business that's actually sellable at some point. And I'm like, I never thought in that way. That's why you hire people that know these things. And so when I started the supplement company, it was kind of the same thing, learn as you go. And then there were so many things that getting into it, I'm like, had I known half of this stuff before I started it, I would have never started it ever. I know that without even being in business for myself and being successful in that way, knowing the shit that I had to like do and go through and the like stress and aggravation and sleepless nights, I'm thankful now. But I would have never, ever, if I would have known even like half of it before I started it, I probably would have never done it because it seems so daunting and overwhelming and just like, but how, so it is wild because I'm just so thankful for jumping in, especially in my fitness and nutrition business, just going and jumping in and figuring it out as I went, because the step 5 and 10 and 20, all those things, it is so terrifying and overwhelming. And then, you think about the, like I was talking about with the money earlier, investing like $5,000 or $6,000 in a mastermind, where it's like now it's a no-brainer for me to invest $45,000 or $50,000 in one. And so it's just crazy how it evolves.
Totally. So in your space, because this is something that I think so many people struggle with, definitely in the beginning stages of business, for sure. I've seen this 1,000 times. People struggle with the saturation. And if there's one industry in the world that is so saturated, it, my friend, is your industry.
Yep.
Health, nutrition. And I always say to people, I'm like, okay, cool. That's amazing. You only need like, even if you got 1,000 people out of the 5 billion on the planet or whatever it is,
Yep.
you can fucking bank hard. So like, I do think that there's, the plus and minus. What do you think set you apart in your space? Because you are successful. And so what has set you apart from what everyone else is doing? Because there is millions of people out there doing what you're doing. What has been your kind of secret sauce, do you think?
Honestly, with the being oversaturated, I always tell people this too, because I have people tell me the same thing. I can't do that because there's so many that do the same thing. And I'm like, trust me, I get it. When I've been interviewed and asked this question, I'm like, first of all, you don't have like teachers and doctors going to school saying the market's oversaturated with teachers. There are, I don't know how many millions of people that graduate to be teachers every year. That you're never going to run out of like the need for any profession. As far as what sets me apart, I honestly think a lot of it is finding and building the community, and then you're that one go-to resource. From day one, like I said in the very beginning, it was never about money for me. Once I realized that I could make money, did I grind and go hard and become smarter about the way I did things and monetize everything that I could? And yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm a very savvy businesswoman. Was I in the beginning? Absolutely not. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. But I will say I did a great job, not knowing that I was doing this, of providing so much free value that it was, people were like, holy shit, like she's literally, and I still do that to this day.
To
She's
this
giving
day, you
this
guys,
for
she does this
free.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I love that you just said that. Love, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I love that you just said that because that is 100% the truth. So many people are afraid to share everything. Guess what, guys? Everything that Emma has shown you, you can go buy on fucking YouTube, but you can go watch for free on YouTube. You
Yep.
can watch her Instagram and never give her $1. But I think, in my personal opinion, There's no fucking secrets, but I also think too that people wanna pay for that condensed, just for me information, and that's why they hire me, and that's why they hire you, and that's why they're paying for it.
Yep. That is 100% I had a friend message me yesterday, and she has done my shred before, and she was like, I'm good, when's your next shred open? And I was telling her, and she said, I'm going to join. She said, I always do so much better when I know I'm paying. And that is the thing. Think about the last time. I can't tell you how many things I get gifted from companies, and yes, I love it. But if it's something that I destroy, or if it was very inexpensive, I'm like, it was only this much, like it's not a big deal, whatever. When you have skin in the game and you're paying for something that's, I don't want to say it's expensive. Expensive is relative. The fact that you're investing in something, and that money that you could have used towards something else, you pay more attention when you pay. And so when you actually have to spend your own money on something, you have skin in the game, and the accountability that's there. It's people, yes, I give so much shit for free. It's crazy. But the access to me to be able to ask me any and all questions, that and the accountability piece and having skin in the game is what makes the biggest difference for people when they invest in coaching. I know I'm that way. When I invest in coaching, it's, yes, like half the shit I've been told I could Google or I could find for free. I want the information yesterday, and I want it in a more condensed, and I want access to that person in the event that I have additional questions or things. But plus I pay more attention, obviously, when I'm having to spend money on things.
Absolutely. My favorite line is when you pay attention. And
Mm.
that's exactly with my clients. You know, my full-time coaching clients, they get 24/7 access to me 365 days a year. And to them, that's the most invaluable thing that there possibly is, right? Like, yeah, you can probably go fucking find it on a podcast somewhere, but when you want dialed in for you instant access, people will pay absolutely everything for that. And I know I do too. Like, I love I love the fact that there's exclusivity. I am the girl who, if there's a VIP option, you bet your fucking ass I'm paying for it.
Same. I love that. It's so good.
I love it. So when you first started, so something that I have noticed that you do, so you talked about Shred with M, which is your signature program, correct? And you only
Yes.
open it, what, 4 times a year?
Right now, this year, it should be 6 times.
Okay, 6 times a year. One thing that I have noticed that you haven't done, which is, I think, super smart, is because I think one thing that I see a lot of people do is they go really wide. You actually, yeah, I love that we're on the same page. You do the exact same thing. You do it really fucking well, and you only sell about 4 things, right? Is that it?
Yep. Yep. Uh,
Genius. You guys
yep.
pay attention. Everyone wants to do all the things. I
I can,
do one fucking thing. M does
yes,
one fucking thing. Pay attention to that.
I can tell you in the very beginning, I got that, like squirrel
These
syndrome where it's like
coaches tell you
tiny steps.
have like a value ladder, have all this thing, but I actually am not sold on that.
Yep. So that was one thing that in the very beginning, I saw coaches. I'm like, I need to do this because so and so is doing this, and I need to have this offer, and I need to do this. And I had like all these different options. And then people are like, but which option do I choose? And I'm like, and then there were so many things. And then it was Chris that I was working with when I was like, one-on-one is my thing. And he was like, no, your group program is your signature offer. And I learned that in that mastermind that I invested the $6,000 in, that I was so expensive. And I will tell you that if that was the only thing that I learned, it wasn't. But if that were to be the only thing that I learned in that mastermind, that was well worth the $6,000. Because when I say I pivoted immediately when I got home, and I let go of one-on-one totally, and it was terrifying because that's where I was making money. I went all in on the shred, and I literally put all of my focus into that. And it went from getting, I don't know, a couple hundred people to where I was getting 1,000+ people. And
Wow.
so it was wild how, again, what you focus on grows. And I mean, it's with anything, literally anything, what you put your focus on, it grows. And so I pivoted immediately, went all in. And then same thing with the supplements. I have a consultant I work with, and they're like, we need to add these and this and all this stuff. And I was like, I really, really right now just want to go deep versus wide. I haven't even tapped into, you know, an eighth, a 16th of the like following that I have as far as like selling to, plus like the stuff that I have, there's an opportunity to go deeper versus like adding just all of these other things. And I know it's different when you're talking about actual like product space, but it's still kind of the same. Like when you have, there's that one thing that you sell really well, it's like you go all in on that. I feel like it's very, you hear all these people say multiple income streams, and I do have multiple income streams, but in different ways, I guess I should say. I work with like different affiliate partnerships and things. So I have like money coming from different places. But at the same time, as far as like my focus, there is one thing that gets the majority of my attention. And that is how the shred has grown so much.
Yep, absolutely. My husband calls it the main spoke in your business.
Yes.
One of our biggest, and I don't know if I've talked about this on our podcast, but my husband's in the real estate development construction world, and our biggest loss ever is when we took we thought it was on our main spoke of real estate, but we invested in a restaurant that was in one of our shopping centers. And that was by far six-figure loss. We got our asses kicked because we went off of our main spoke. I think the best thing that you can do in business is stay on that main spoke. Stay on what you frickin' know. And unfortunately, we live in a world where people talk about so many multiple, income streams and all the things. Sarah Blakely, she's one of the best ones that she said that I think she says that she has 2,000 ideas a year that she put in a book before she sold Spanx. But for 20 years, all she did was Spanx. And she sold it for $1 billion, folks. So pay attention to that one thing. So I think that's really, really helpful. And I think for you too, because immediately I go in this industry that you're in, the nutrition and fitness industry, most people start going to coaching and they start doing all of these other things. Have you ever been tempted to get off your main spoke?
I have, yes. And I have honestly, I think it was middle of last year, I was getting pulled in so many different directions, and you should do this and this. And it's like you start listening, and not that people have bad ideas, but at the same time, it's always like trust your gut.
Yes.
And I kept getting like other coaches that wanted to collaborate. And of course, like when you have a larger following, and I get it, like I understand how it works. Um, and it's not that it wouldn't have been like beneficial for me. The money that I could make if I wanted to do actual like business coaching and teach people to do what I do, I would make way more money doing that than what I actually do, because I could charge much more. But one, I have no desire to do it. It just doesn't speak to me in that way. Like I have gotten now where I can work a certain number of hours, and I've got things in a good place where I don't have to work a crazy amount like I used to. And I'm making a good income, and then I'm growing my supplement business. And that was my goal this year, was to really be intentional and focus on those two things. Um, Versus going out and like starting another business, with another coach to be able to make some more money. Yes, the idea, like it was tempting because I was like, oh, I can make more money. But at the end of the day, when I started thinking about it, I was like, I'm going to pull so much attention and focus away from the things that that really need my nurturing to do this other thing. And it just honestly got to the point where it felt a little overwhelming, and it wasn't it didn't light me up to think about doing it. And so I was like, I don't have the desire to do it. And so it got back to one of those things where if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so I have turned down multiple things as far as in the coaching space, just because it just doesn't feel aligned with, especially with where I'm at right now. 2-3 years from now, I may be in a completely different place, but right now, I just don't have the desire to do it.
Ugh, I love that you say that because it's so true. Like I listen all to, we in the space that you and I kind of exist in somewhat of a similar world,
Yep.
but it's just like everyone tells you you're doing it wrong if you're not doing this or you're not doing that or you're not doing that. And I mean, when I switched and just went strictly to my one-on-one, I mean, I made great money. I have 27 clients that I work with full time. It lights my soul on fire. I have a husband who's successful, but I could do so much more. I could do groups, I could do courses, I could do all of these things, but I'm like, you guys, life, you have to know what you want out of life. I will never give up playing golf once a week with my old man buddies for an extra $100,000 a year. Zero
Yep.
fucking chance. And my husband, he has a quote unquote traditional job. So I'm never going to give up my Saturday and Sundays with my husband, a couple times a month in order to make an extra couple $100,000. But yet, so many people are not very clear on what they actually want out of their
Yep.
lives. Like you are really living this dream life that you've created. And I think sometimes people like implode that because they always are striving for something more, 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 more. And it's like, what the fuck do you really want? Because some people might want a $10 million company, but some people might just want to have the time to go to their son's football game.
Yep. I can tell you when I first started, it was never about the money. And when I realized I could make more money, I was like, this is great. And then COVID happened. And when I say my business exploded in the
Oh,
best kind of way, I was not prepared for it. I didn't have a VA. I literally did.
you didn't even have a VA? Oh
No,
my God. How many
I
team
will tell
members do you
you.
have now?
So I have a VA and an assistant coach.
Oh, wow.
But in the very beginning, it was me for the first several years. And when I say like I was IT customer service, when my supplement line started, I literally packaged and shipped all orders from my garage. Like I've done every aspect of my business in all my businesses. So like I remember all of the things, and I will never ever like not appreciate where I am now because of all of that stuff. I also, whenever I got like COVID hit and it got crazy and I just exploded and things were happening so quickly. And I went from, like I said, having like, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 people in a shred to where I was getting, I remember like 600, then it was like 700, 800, 1,000, 1,200. I was doing everything by myself, everything. And so when I say I was working like 16 to 18 hours a day for at least a good 10 to 12 days of the month, trying to get people's plans to them and all that stuff before the program opened, I was making more money than I ever dreamed imaginable. I mean, I was printing money. It was like, I'm trying to think of that. There's this movie where it's like they open up closets and money, they're like burying it everywhere. There's like
Yeah.
money here. But it was, I mean, not that extreme, but I was making really good money. I had no time to even be alive, to live, to enjoy it. I can remember trick or treat, and my sister come over with my nephew, and my mom was there, and my mother-in-law and husband at the time, we were all at my house. And I literally stopped working to go trick or treat. And when we got done and we came back, even while the boys were opening their candy and going through it and everybody was eating pizza, I had to go straight back to my computer and work. So there were so many little moments during making all this crazy money that I was like, I can't even enjoy it. I don't do anything but work.
Yeah.
Um, and then got divorced. And after I started working with another coach, and we talked about one of the most important things to me was like getting my time back. And again, it was one of those pivotal things. And I came home, hired somebody to help me immediately, and then hired a second person. And I started working way less. I was still making the same amount of money. I was paying people a little, a little bit, but the buying my time back was the biggest thing. And now I'm to a point where I have experienced both sides of it, and I will never ever put myself in a place where I'm working so much that I can't enjoy the little things that I actually enjoy. Like you were saying, the weekends I mean, I don't know. That to me, you can't put a price on, and I will never do that again.
I love it, but I also think that it's cool that you got to experience both sides of it too, right? And I think that that's
100%.
been when you have contrast, I think in your life, it's helpful when you do have that contrast so you can go like, oh, the grass is not always greener. Okay,
Yes.
here we go. You
Yes.
know,
I'm so thankful for the experiences. Yep.
Totally. So something that you just said that a couple minutes ago that I really wanted to touch on, because a lot of people I think really have an issue with this. You said you grew up dirt poor.
Oh yeah.
I didn't grow up dirt poor, but I grew up very middle class. Something that a lot of people struggle with is money mindset. A
Mhm.
lot of people, like when they come into money, how have you worked on your money mindset, or how are you around money? Because it is a true fact that a lot of people, unless you really work on your money mindset, you'll either A, never make it, or B, not keep it.
Yep.
And I think that that's a huge thing. You may know how to make money, but you may not know how to hold money. You may not know how to keep money. You may not know how to invest money. Money is a weird topic that I talk tons a lot with clients. No matter how much money you're making, you might be making $50,000 a year, you might be making $5 million a year. So how has that evolved for you?
So I did grow up very poor. Like we lived in a house that had no central heat and air. I lived there till I was 21.
Wow.
Shared one bedroom with my two sisters that was literally the size of like probably almost my closet now. So very poor. We lived on WIC, food stamps, you know, so I just like to stress that so people can understand like where I'm at now versus when I was younger. I never would have dreamed to even be when I was making six figures working at the bank. I was like, holy shit, I never dreamed I'd be making this much money. So to even fathom when I started my business, when I saw honestly other coaches talking about making $10,000 a month, my money mindset then I was like, she is full of shit. There is no way you can make $10,000 a month. There is literally no way. Like that was it was not fathomable to me to make that. And so hiring coaches and people that could literally explain like this whole money mindset thing. And I don't want to say I'm woo woo, but there are certain things that I'm a little woo about. And like manifesting, I truly believe in that. I can tell you that the first several years of my business, I would get up and write down every single morning the like I am this, like the things that had already like
Girl,
spoke.
I still do that. I
Yeah,
tell my clients, I'm like, I create my life on a sticky note. What the fuck are you talking about?
absolutely, absolutely. And I swear it's the just reprogramming your brain because there were so many things I can remember. This is too expensive, or I can't, and financing my first car that was $10,000 and paying $1,000 down on it, and literally almost not being able to get a loan. I think I was 21 at the time. I had to get my dad to co-sign. I didn't even have a relationship with my dad. It was when you talk about being broke, it was like living paycheck to paycheck. Then to going to being able to buy an X5 M Sport with cash. And that to me, that moment that I was able to buy a car with cash, and like even the dealership, they were like, what does this bitch do? And I'm like, it was wild because I'm just sitting there thinking, I never thought I would be here. But my mindset around like it took a long time of working with people and taking in that, like, as Chris would say, that positive propaganda and listening to the podcast and just tuning out the shit that doesn't fit and really focusing on the message that you want to like receive, and kind of like the rose colored lenses things, like just viewing things from what you need to see. And it is still a challenge though, because there are of course people that you hang out with or family that isn't quite in the same like position that you are. And so it's harder to, I don't want to say you have to censor yourself, but it's like you almost have to censor yourself around like certain things with talking, because you'll hear them say like, shit, we can't do that. That's way too expensive. And this is like, my dad used to always say money doesn't grow on trees. And I'm like, okay, so.
Bitch, I got trees in my closets. I got trees under my bed. I got trees in my X5. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
So it's just crazy. I mean, but it is,
No, I
it
totally agree.
honestly, you have to it is like literal reprogramming. And as cheesy as some of the stuff sounds, like saying the things to yourself and believe, like truly believing them. And it's like leaving the bigger tip, because, yes, I'm spending that money, but I've spent that and I'm going to make way more than that, and it's just like the little things, but it's getting used to like doing those little things. I don't know. It's even with donating money. I can remember donating 10 or $20 to like animal shelters is like my big, I love donating to animal things. And I can remember doing that when I was broke. And then now that I'm not broke and I make more money, I can donate in a much larger way, which I absolutely love. And it gives me more joy than anything. And it's just kind of along that same concept. If you're not going to donate $1 to $5 when you have nothing, you're probably not going to donate all this money when you make money. When people are like, oh, I'll donate when I make more money. No, you won't. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a total reprogramming of your brain. And sometimes that means cutting people out of your life, and maybe not like so much out of your life, but it's like really keeping them at like a short or a long distance, whatever that is, like not,
Boundaries.
yes. And
Yeah.
so I had to do a lot of that, just removing certain groups of people or friend groups, or limiting interactions with like, because it people's views, it's very easy for people's views on things to be your view when you hang out with them enough, no matter what it is. Especially if it's talked about a lot. And money, when you're doing anything, people will harp on how expensive something is, or how, whatever. So that one, I will say, was like, that was a huge challenge for me. Huge challenge.
Absolutely. So this reminds me just a couple more questions. I obviously value your time, but two things there. Number one is, in your line of work, a lot of people judge you, talk about you, look at you online because of the way you look. And if you do not follow Em, go look at her, because she is absolutely a rock star, stunner, fucking hot as shit, you guys. She really is. But I mean, obviously it's part of your business. Like, I get it. Like, it's part of the show. But also too, you get a ton of shit. And I'm not a person that looks at comments and all the things, but like just a couple of the comments that you can kind of see, because I do stalk M's account because those recipes are fucking fire, guys. I'm telling you right now, you need to hire her. But I'm sure one of the biggest things that happens with your clients, so you can give a person, because this is what I focus in on, the mindset and the strategy. And you provide your clients with the strategy of, this is the way that you can eat, this is the way that you can work out. But the mindset behind it is something that I think is the most important part, because if someone doesn't have the confidence in themselves and the mindset in themselves, how are they ever going to make those lasting changes? Because for me, that was everything. And you just talked about the money mindset, but like, how do you help someone, or what do you suggest to someone? Like, how have you been able to put yourself out there? And what about your clients who are struggling to like have the confidence in themselves to fucking do the thing?
Honestly, and I hate to say dumb it down. I don't mean that in like a negative way.
No, I think you need to.
Yeah, but I always tell people, I'm like, explain that to me. If it's something I don't understand, I'm like, explain it to me like you would a child. Because
Yes.
like I need like, the simplified version here. But I try to make it as simple as possible, especially for people in the beginning. And I'm like, don't focus on all of these things or all this shit that you see on social media. Make it simple. And it's focusing on calories, protein, and moving your body in some way. Don't set this lofty goal of, and I know we were talking about 75 hard, how it's like you feel like you have to hit all of these things, and if you don't hit all of these things, you failed. That's the one reason that I don't love that, is because it's so easy for somebody to look at it and be like, I failed, instead of like, shit, I did like 7 of the things I was supposed to do out of the 10, or whatever it is. And so honestly, I tell people to set the smallest, especially in the beginning of their journey, goals daily. If it is, today I'm going to drink this much water, I'm going to walk this many steps, and I am going to they may not even be to the calorie part yet. That might be too overwhelming, but it's set these small little goals each day that you can crush and feel really good about. And you're just getting the reps in. But those reps of that stuff are obviously working towards the bigger, overarching goal of losing weight. But if you're drinking more water and you're moving your body some with a step goal or something like that, obviously you're going to be working towards that bigger goal. But it's going to make you feel good in the beginning because you're like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm crushing these things. Like, what's next? And so you add on just an additional step. It might be, I'm going to focus on trying to get 100 grams of protein in it a day. And, or you may put it in a range. And I always tell people, don't get married to something that's so, I'm very gray, black and white. Don't get this, it has to be this, everything has to be this precise. I have to hit this much. Give yourself a range, or just, you know what, this is what I'm working towards. If 100 grams is the goal and they can only get 60, you know what, 60 is better than the 30 I was getting. I can gradually increase that. So it's literally just setting those small, tangible goals each day, crushing those, giving yourself confidence that you can do it, and showing up for yourself and showing yourself that, you know what, I can do this. I'm showing up for myself today. And then just kind of going from there, and it just becomes a snowball that picks up speed as it rolls downhill.
I love it. On my stories today, this won't come out for a couple months when we're recording it, but on my stories today, I said, I think one of the biggest detrimental things to people is that black and white mentality, that all or nothing mentality. It takes away, number one, your chance at success, and number two, your joy. It
Yep.
takes away both of those things. So I love those answers. I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Kind of going back to how you handle things on social media though, how have you been able to do that? Because you have blown up and you are absolutely gorgeous and this company is huge now. How have you been able to really kind of handle all the success that you have? Or are you just really good about putting on your blockers and just fucking doing the job?
Honestly, I will say and I'm sure they're there, like, but I rarely see a bunch of shade. I tend to focus on, and I will see, and a lot of times if I get like a shitty comment, it's from a man, and I'm like,
Exactly. Like I give two shits. Keyboard warrior.
exactly. But I do, and there are like some that come through, but honestly, the majority of the feedback and the comments that I get, um, or the ones that I see, are super supportive. I've been really good about creating a great community of supportive women. Um, and I love that. Like, I feel like a big part of my job at this point now is creating content and being on social media and being a face on social media. And like when people say you're an influencer, and it's not that I don't like the term, I just don't feel like I'm an influencer. And so I never, like, I don't relate to that. I'm like, I'm a 40-year-old mom. I just, I just run my business through social media. Um, but I will say, when I see the shitty ones, there are so many times that I want to defend myself, or um, comment back, especially to, like, ignorant men comments. But I take a second and I'm like, I can only imagine how they have to feel about themselves to attack or say something nasty to a complete stranger. Because I'm sitting there literally thinking, if this person saw that comment made to their sister or their mother or their girlfriend, how would they react? They would probably lose their shit. It's people often, not often, people always, if, and I've explained this to my son who's 11, because he's like, I don't understand why people don't like Taylor Swift, or there's people that say bad things about Taylor Swift with football. And I said, when you have somebody who is on top of the world and it looks like their life is perfect and they're beautiful and they're happy, misery loves company, and people like to shit on things to bring those people down to their level. I refuse to let somebody's opinion of me, which is not my business at all, because it is literally just that, their opinion of me. Whether it's how I look, how I eat, if I eat seed oils, whatever. I get that shit kills me.
About that too. Like, oh my God, you drink a Diet Coke. Well, fuck, you are just
I'm
horrible.
like, yes, every single day I will drink a Diet Coke. If you are new here, get ready for it. If you don't like it, there's an unfollow button. Um, But it's one of those that I'm like, you know what? Their opinion is not my business. I don't have to explain everything about my choices to them. I don't have the time and I just don't care enough to do it. So if it's something where I can just delete, block, and move on, that's usually what I do. But you know, it's just explaining, like I was to my son, it's if you worry so much about what people, and of course there are comments that I'm like, damn, that hurts. Like I'm not going to act like
Totally.
it's not, there's stuff that hurts to read or that it's like you want to defend yourself. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's the same kind of shit as when you get on Facebook and people are like, during elections, and you've got these people that are going on about, this is why Trump, you know, vote this, and all these things, and explaining like why you should vote for Trump, for example. Nobody's going to read that and go, oh my God,
Perfect.
I believed this for 20 years and I just reading this Facebook post, you've totally changed my mind. I'm going to vote for Trump. That doesn't happen. So it's in how people are programmed and wired in their thinking and how they feel about themselves, honestly, when they leave nasty shit on your Instagram or your social media accounts. And so I just chalk it up to, sorry you're having a shitty day. I'm sorry there's something about yourself that you don't like enough that you feel the need to try to bring somebody else down to your level, um, and just kind of delete and block and move on.
You guys, that right there is true confidence. I really do believe it's the people who are confident enough in themselves to go, yeah, that hurt, but it's not going to stop me. And I definitely do not want you to stop anytime soon because I just love cheering you on. So happy for you. So tell everyone how they can, we know, follow Macros with them, but where do we work with you? How do we work with you? What does all that look like?
Yeah. So I have Instagram is macros with M, and then the next shred with M. There will be one in March and April. So the spring is usually pretty heavy for me with those. So I've got March, April, May. I'll have 3 back to back. But macroswithm.com is where you can find the information to work with me in the shred. And then the supplement line is happy, HAPI, body, BODI.com. So that's all the supplements I use, the best protein powder you'll ever use. But yes, that's where
I
you can
love
find me.
it. Happy Body, you guys, the way she writes it is so cute too. HAPIBODI. You guys go follow Em. She's a great follow. I'm telling you, you know, I don't know if you know which one it is, but I literally every single fucking day make your pita pizza in the
Yep.
frying pan thing. Swear to
It's
God,
so easy.
it's so easy. Guys, it's a pita, ham, a bit of cheese and tomato and pizza sauce. You put it in the pan. I can eat that between client calls in the 10 minutes that I've got. It's so delicious and it literally tastes like you're eating a pizza right now. And I'm on 75 hard right now. So I've changed the wrap to like the 4 ingredient wrap, the
Yep.
whatever Siete Foods wrap and no cheese and it's still delicious.
I love it.
Thank you so much you guys. Please go follow Em right now.
Thank you.